So on the show today with Moses, we talk about mapping out the client journey, how to scale past $1 million, creating qualified leads, failing fast, and much more. This is a great episode. Make sure you listen right till the end. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Constructive Conversations. The intention of this podcast is to explore the mindset and actionable strategies that empower entrepreneurs to achieve success in all areas of life while inspiring listeners to confidently pursue their own ambitious dreams. The reason I do this podcast is because 10 years ago I knew I wanted to start a business, but I had no idea where to start and no role models to follow. The goal is to provide that inspiration for new entrepreneurs and provide fuel for those who are already doing it. Joining us today is Moses Thien, a digital growth consultant who focuses on process optimization and customer journey. Thanks so much for joining today, Moses.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So let's start by tell us a little bit more about what you do and you specialize in.
Okay, so I should start a bit more on my backstory. So I moved to Canada 7 years ago. I used to do pharmaceutical sales. So what happened was when I moved to Canada, couldn't find a job. I'm like, okay, what do I do now? Went online. Interestingly, you see a lot of people doing business online, and I was like, oh, this is something that I could actually plan for. So I started diving in more towards the realm of digital marketing because of my sales experience as well. And that way I was like, you can actually create a career online for this. So that's where I started off my journey for my business in itself, and that's kind of lead me to where I am today. A big part of what I do today is helping businesses optimize their entire sales process and their customer journey. And a big reason why is I work with more than 250 plus businesses to date, and a big common problem that I see when I go into their business is while they are always looking for more customers or more leads in general, a big part of where they do not actually have sorted out in their business is their customer journey in their sales process. In terms of when we think about a business, we always think of people saying about, hey, who's your ideal client, who are you serving? But when you go deeper into that conversation, they don't actually have that journey mapped out for their ideal client. So they have kind of who's their ideal client persona, but it doesn't really get them into the perspective of designing a ideal customer journey from how a lead will enter their sales process all the way to becoming a sale. So that becomes a problem, because when business owners are trying to scale, especially when I help them do anything from Facebook ads or any form of marketing in itself, getting leads isn't the problem, it's really converting them, and you find so many breakage in their sales process that it becomes a problem at scale. And if they don't have that tidy up before scaling, it just becomes a disastrous mess, which is why to me that is kind of the most important thing, and that's kind of the path I've went down on.
Okay, awesome. And what did that look like for 5 years? Did it sort of evolve into your current business, or did you know this is the point that you wanted to get to?
Definitely a slow evolution if you were to ask me. So we started off more from really building sales funnel, just doing random Facebook ads for mostly dental medical practices. And it got me into thinking, right? So I work with this, one of my clients actually is from San Francisco. So when we started working with her, she was going in the hole for like month after month. Like she was losing money. She wasn't doing well in any way. And then when we got her, she kind of expected more from a perspective of like, hey, we need to generate results almost immediately, or else her business wasn't going to stay afloat. And it was kind of crazy from an expectation when you come in from a service provider standpoint. And initially we went in doing Facebook ads and all. And when you look deeper under the hood, it becomes more of like, hey, like you have a bigger problem in itself. I can give you leads, but leads are just falling through. There's no process in your office of actually nurturing these leads. Most business owners expect all these leads to naturally turn into customers, and that kinds of become of like how I went into the rabbit hole of like, hey, okay, like we need to be optimizing your sales process. What does that look like? How do we create system processes for your business, and how do we really bring this lead into a sale? And so that slow evolution is just really just having lots of conversation with business owner, in terms of most of the time they come to any digital marketing agency or marketing agency in general just on the fact of, I want more leads, I want more customers. But I think that thought process just caught on to me really quickly, that when people come to me, I need more lead, necessarily what they are saying, that I want more customers, right? And that is a journey, that's a whole process in itself, and people don't actually see that. So kind of going down the route of focusing on the customer journey has gotten me lots of success with clients. I mean, my fastest growing client has went from $1 to $50 million in just a short of 5 years. Man, it's like And all I see in that business in itself is they focus really a lot on like business process optimization. Like while they have all these marketing channels in itself, they see business as a whole, they optimize the journey, and it really makes the business more functional and viable and more predictable in a day-to-day perspective, more than just hey, I just need leads. But what you really mean is I need more customers in my business, right? So that kind of like is from sales evolution, just having more interaction with customers, seeing their pain point. That's kind of how I went down this path.
That's so interesting when you say business owners think that they need more leads, but actually there's an underlying problem. So they're asking one question, but then, so your job is, you're like a doctor diagnosing a patient and asking the deeper questions. What's the underlying cause of the issue, not just the symptom? Because yeah, you hear that all the time. People, oh, I need more leads, I need more leads. But it's like if you're catching fish and they're falling back into the water, then you gotta patch some holes somewhere.
Yeah, and
So
what you said is really true, right? And I think that's kind of the biggest fallacy out there for people, where they think that to grow their business they just need more leads. Well, I can say that that's true, but if you have a broken system, right, you're gonna waste more money than you're actually acquiring leads. So because I work a lot with paid ads, and people think that paid ads can get you customers fast, but I mean, if I can give you 100 leads tomorrow and you can only convert one, my question to you is what's going to happen to the rest of the 99 leads that enter your system? Is that something that you have a process to nurture? What does that process look like? Is Tom, Bob, Sally, who is going to be in charge of nurturing that lead all the way to the sale? And where is your big bottleneck? Because you can always pull a lever from paid advertising in itself very easily. I just throw money on Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, doesn't matter. But ultimately, if people going through your sales process and there's a big bottleneck, why aren't you solving the big bottleneck first before actually pouring more money into the system? So kind of really give you a very data-driven approach into looking at your whole customer sales journey in itself, your sales process in itself. And that allows you to scale more efficiently as just going back like if fishes are jumping out of the net, like you're not going to catch any more fish than what you already had.
and do you find this is something that business owners or businesses are aware of that they need to work on, or is it overlooked? Like, are people talking about this?
It is not a common issue because it's a boring issue to solve. So, and I would say that like most people can easily get to, I mean, with who I work with, right? Most people can easily get to $1 million to like even $1.5 million just by being aggressive in sales. And that means you have more leads into the system. But ultimately, to scale past $1 million, I can tell you that that's where the struggle comes in, because if you don't have the proper system in place, you cannot have replicatable processes. You cannot just easily hire somebody else. And if processes are not fixed from the get-go, you bring someone on, you are just asking someone to work on broken processes, and inefficiency happens. There's so many things that you have to go back on your fundamentals to fix before solving the problem. And for business owners, it's not common because they're so in the weeds of their business. I mean, just like ourselves, right? We're just so in the weeds of the business that we don't actually take a step back to look in terms of like what lever needs to be put. And if I tell any business owner like, hey, like you have to go look back into your sales process and understand what that actually looks like. Are you going to take the time to go and look at every single step from what is being done from the front receptionist, from the phones, all the way to the person actually doing the work? That's a very long journey that needs time and effort. And when then you see as a whole that there's so many things to fix and you don't even know where to begin, it just causes so much overwhelm that people just kind of brush it off at the end of the day, and they just goes back to like, hey, like, yeah, if I just have more leads coming in, which is true, right? I mean, you can scale your business just by spending more money and acquiring more leads. But the thing is, yeah, like, is that going to be profitable at the end of the day? That's the question that you need to ask, because ultimately, if people are falling through your sales process and there's so many gaps in your business, then it's not necessarily going to be profitable for you. You're just spending more money. There's going to be a tipping point at a point of time where you're definitely going to spend more money than acquiring more customers just because of broken system in itself.
Yeah, so I like what you said there. That's sort of the limit at $1 million. You can't scale past. Can you talk a little more about your customer that went from 1 million to 50 million? What did they have to implement or change in order to make that leap?
So for that, it's very interesting. So I mean, so they were good sales. They were doing great in sales in the first place, and they had a good product, a good offer. I think that forms up most, I mean, so the very first thing for people to grow really quickly, right? Like I always look at kind of their offer. What are they offering? Because I mean, you can offer the same product to people repackaged in a different way and it can sell so much better. So that's kind of what I've learned from them. So they have a phenomenal product which cater to a lot of people in the market. And once people understand that, people cannot really say no to it. So kind of it was just I mean, like just from the book of like what 100 million offer by Alex Hormozy, right? Like just you just create an offer so good that people cannot say no. So kind of they meet that criteria. So that was the very first thing that came out for me from in terms of like why they had a fast growth trajectory. The second thing in terms of their customer journey, right? Like they had a whole very good fulfillment process dialed in and like handoff process. And like there was only two salespeople working in the company when I first started the company, right? With just helping them with their digital marketing. And the thing was, both of them had a very predictable process from they will get leads in. They have they will go through a webinar. The webinar would sell them onto a discovery call. The discovery call would then sell them to a sales call, and then it has a fulfillment process. So it was a very standardized process at scale. I mean, like ultimately they are qualifying people using an automated webinar perspective. So it wasn't necessary I have to talk to every single lead that comes in. While there's going to be lead that comes on in where they would do like a short 15 minutes phone call just as an introduction basis. But ultimately they had a very clear process in terms of like, hey, like, okay, the next step is a webinar. They have to watch this. If they don't watch this, I'm not going to talk to anybody because it's not going to be a qualified lead. So they have a very good qualification process in itself. And the ultimate thing that they actually test was which webinar performs the best, because that was their biggest bottleneck. How can they more people book a call from the webinar in itself, and how fast can they actually get it? So that was kind of like how we really optimize that whole flow. And because once that flow was really optimized, the thing that we really had to train people on when they brought more salespeople on wasn't to train people how to qualify leads, but they train people on how to nurture leads after they actually watch the webinar. So it's just from when they watch the webinar, what should the follow-up process be like? So kind of just bring people on with very fixed expectation in terms of what they should be doing on the discovery call, on the sales call in itself. Kind of, it was a very simple approach. So it went to a point of that. So that's why they just had to add people to scale from a sales perspective more than actually from the qualification perspective. But now their next challenge, right? So I mean, getting to a $50 million mark, they just added more salespeople. They already had like a very good sales process in place plus a fulfillment process in place. But as of now, because now they're trying to get to probably like the 9-figure mark, like $100 million in revenue, expanding the team just from a sales capacity isn't possible, because now we are getting more people more leads on the front end that are less qualified and not necessarily people who are watching the webinar. So now that becomes their big bottleneck. So things that they are looking to solve for that is like, hey, like they are having appointment setters coming in to their business where they are fixing up if a lead opt-ins, how can they actually engage the conversation on the front end faster, because now their capacity on the sales side of things is really filled up. So they know that is they have pretty much maximized the capacity at this point of time. So now they fix up on the front end of things where they get an appointment setter to qualify further, or not qualify further, but rather get people into a conversation faster so that they can point them into the training faster. So kind of like you can see that those are two very different problems to solve, one from an appointment setting segment and one from a sales segment. So from the $1 to $15 million mark, the sales was the focus, and now it's more from a prospecting focus, right? So they put appointment setter in, focus on prospecting, and they're trying to scale aggressively, because that's where a lot of people who think they might be interested, I can get you more interested just by starting a conversation with you. So that's what's the goal of the appointment setting. But all these are actually being tracked from a data-driven approach, so that we know in terms of like what are the levers to pull, and these are not simple things that you can just wake up tomorrow, start a business and have that. It's really intentional in terms of designing the sales process to understand how each stage actually matters, what you should be measuring at each point of time to understand like really in the bigger scope of things, what should be tracking, how should you be optimizing your business.
So that's interesting that you cover like even all the way through into the sales process. Did that come sort of from your background in sales that you were able to integrate that?
No, not really.
No.
I
Okay.
talked to enough business owner to feel frustrated enough. So how I really entered this, right? I mean, like going back to one of my clients in San Francisco. So she was actually one of my first few clients, and the biggest issue was really seeing business owner not looking introspectively into their business, and that frustrates me because when I deal with paid ads, a big part of time is I'm dealing with marketing dollars, right? I mean, people hard-earned money, and I feel that a lot of people are just wasting that money, especially when they are working with me. And when I see the waste, I'm like, man, if you guys want to waste that money, just transfer it to my bank account. So that's and I can tell you that I spend no small amount on ads. I can spend anywhere from like for people spending $50 a day to $3,000 a day. So like it's big sum of money. Like I mean now I have a client spending $5,000 a day. Like man, like so at scale is kind of crazy. In the bigger scope of things, it's not something that I'm just going to just throw down the drain. And when I see this, the biggest issue that I see from people which let down the customer journey is that they don't actually understand where the gaps are in their business. And to me, it makes so much sense that when I spend money, I expect you to call the lead, to nurture the lead, to figure out how to work the lead, right? Like it's called working the lead. But like earlier on that I mentioned that a lot of people comes on in and then they just expect the lead to turn into a customer. I'm like, okay, so you clearly don't understand how a lead goes through a journey. So that went down to the part of like, yeah, there's a customer journey. You talk about ideal client, you want this ideal client to come in and purchase, but you're not really talking about how do you want this ideal client to experience. What's the call frequency like from Sally who's dealing with the front desk, or what would that be like from when they come on in, like what's the discovery question that you need to be asking, like so those are really not focused about as a whole. Like yes, it's casually talked about, like oh yeah, I can tell you Sally is going to call when a lead comes in, but when you start going deeper into the weeds, Sally is doing 5 different phone calls for 5 different people saying 5 different things, where it's kind of a similar kind of lead. So there was no standard expectation in terms of what Sally needs to be doing in any way or form, and that screws up the business, because then on a great day when Sally is doing well, you don't even know why, and on a bad day Sally is doing bad, you don't even know why. So you can't really have a standard point of optimization in terms of whether it's a script, whether it's a calling cadence, whether it's the time of call, right? Like so it's just so sporadic in the bigger scope of things. And back to this the dental client, right? Like we pretty much right just fixing her sales process. She went from losing like she went from making like $50,000-$60,000 a month and like almost declaring bankrupt to like making close to 130K per month in revenue just by fixing the sales process. So like it's so crazy, right? Like if you think about it, like we just spend money on Facebook to fix the sales process. Ultimately, that was what pretty much changed a big business, pull a business out from a whole. And it was so, to me it was so like if this works for one business, I don't see why it shouldn't work for every other business out there. So that's where I went on like a hunt of like, hey, like if I do this and just fix your sales process, how much result can I get for you, right? So that's kind of like in the bigger scope of things, how this whole idea came about, which is why then I create this thing called the perfect growth system strategy, right? So when I go into business now, I use this 5-step strategy, which really puts them in perspective of like how I work with them, and not just like people come to me, I want you to run my ads. Okay, great. But let's take a step back, talk about what that's going to look like before I start wasting your money. So just putting all of that together, and it just have gotten success. People have gotten so much result from it that is really great to see, and ultimately it's definitely scalable from a business standpoint, because now I have data, I have trackable systems, and it gives so much confidence from a business owner working with me, more like, hey, like yeah, I can see where my business is going, what lever I should pull. So people always talk about good and bad result. I mean, but they always focus, I want good result. But I mean, the flip side is if you have bad result, now you know what to change. And it's not necessarily because the leads are bad or whatsoever. It's ultimately leads are just leads at the end of the day, and they can just go, and as long as you have a cycle of bringing them through, a good process to bring them through, you're going to turn into a sale.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You're using that high level view that you talked about to get the real picture of everything that's going on. So what advice would you give, say somebody has a business and they're in that position where your client was at the beginning, you know, that maybe it's not cash flow positive, they're struggling, they're you know out chasing new leads. What should they start to look at to sort of look at their sales process?
So I mean, to me, I mean, a few things I'll look at, right? First is the offer. So like, are you selling? I mean, the offer. Are you like how much friction are you getting on the offer in itself, right? I mean, like because for example, I mean, like going back to a dentist, 10,000 different dentists out there, but the one is like if you want to get more clients in itself, you kind of really have to differentiate yourself, right, from the rest of them so that people would want you. What does that look like? What is your unique process that you have following that offer? So kind of a look at the offer in terms of like, I mean, you can always get volume in easily, but effectively you can get volume in, but if your offer isn't great to attract people in, that's your first big problem that you need to solve. Second is in terms of like your bottlenecks in your business, right? Like understanding your own journey, because getting a lead all the way to a sale, let's say if I put lead in and I have, say, Sally taking on the front desk receptionist position, and she's not following up with these leads when the lead comes in from like a Facebook form, when or like when she's talking to a lead in itself, she's more like order taking than actually doing a sale, because ultimately front desk people are the most critical salespeople in the company, but they don't actually realize it, right? They not only need to answer questions, they need to diagnose in terms of like what this person is looking for and how they actually overcome objections. Because if, let's say, Sally goes on like is a front desk staff at a receptionist for a dentist, and she were to just like, hey, like, what are you looking for? Oh, I'm looking for cleaning. Or then if people ask for a price, oh, I'm going to think about it, right? And that means this person is price shopping, and if no objections handling is being taught on her part, she's like, okay, great, bye, put down the phone. And that's pretty much how you're going to lose a sale. And that's
For sure.
as fundamental as that sounds, right? That is happening out of like freaking 80-90% of the business out there. I can tell you every single business owner that I work with, that's one key problem to solve. So you really have to go through each step of the sales process, mapping out what that's going to look like first, and then questioning everybody that is in charge of every single role in that sales process to understand what they're doing, what they're saying, what's the frequency, understanding how they are performing, because ultimately that is what needs to optimize to get a lead into a sale. So that means like listening to phone calls, listening to like bring them, like asking them to write a script, and those are very fundamental stuff that people don't do on a regular basis, which is what is really costing them business, because ultimately it leads to a sale. I mean, like, yes, you have, like, if you have a great offer but a person cannot have a conversation with somebody, you're going to lose the lead. You have a bad offer, somebody can have a conversation to the sale, you still have a flow through process in itself. And if people are really just cash flow, I mean, like if they're not, their business not cash flowing and is on a negative, I mean, the thing is, how can you reduce, like, especially when you go through the sales process, right? How can you reduce redundancy? Because there's so many factors that actually create a negative revenue or negative cash flow. One is you're not selling a product high enough, or two, you're hiring too many people that is costing you more, that costing you more money, which means inefficiency of the business. Or ultimately, the thing is you have a very big gap in your sales process where people are just falling off, even though you can see. So you have to track number of leads to number of sale every single month, so you kind of need to know where people are dropping off in your sales cycle and who is the culprit of it. So that's kind of how I just envision in terms of like, when you say if people are like, if they're not cash flowing in their business, this is what I would look at first. Because if you understand kind of your big business as a whole, like, negative cash flow is just a result. I mean, it's just a result of a few things, right, in the business. And if you are able to look into that introspectively, you know which lever you're going to pull.
Amazing. Yeah, I think that's very valuable. Do you have, over the course of your business journey, have you had mentors? Like, who's been sort of like your teachers along the way, or who are your mentors now?
Lots of mentors. I've done lots of coaching over the years. So I started off with a private coach, like a small business coach. She was pretty much like a freelancers who was starting a business. So I was just trying to get my business going. I didn't know where to start, so I just hired this random person that I just met. Like, oh, you have a business? Okay, talk to me more. And then along the way, I mean, like, I'm not sure the top names in like the digital marketing industry. So like Russell Brunson, Taylor Welsh. So I've been listening to a lot of what they have, consuming lots of their content. Steve Larsen, I went to lots of his events as well. Then recently Dan Mateo. So like we're just hopping on to like many of these great business entrepreneurs that I work with. A lot of people that I actually learn from is also the business owner that I'm working from. I learn from what not to do. So it's very interesting. I mean, like, when we talk about business mentors, not just people who have great success in life, but rather, because I'm in the marketing business, I work with lots of business owners, and like, they are kind of my mentors as well, because I see in their business in terms of like, hey, like, yeah, you guys are doing this. I know that this is not something that I should be doing in my business. So that kind of teaches me along the way. And I mean, the thing is, I think that and the only reason why I like to have business mentors is it allows me to learn faster and do things that, and I mean, I'm not failing on my dime. That's what I like to call it. Like I'm failing on somebody else's dime, right? Like they are making mistakes in their business, and for me, it's always a learning opportunity. And the thing is, I will always pay to learn something faster because the thing is, if I can do something faster, I can learn a whole skill set faster or implement a whole business process in itself. For example, right, like now I'm trying to create a whole camera setup for my own business, right? I'll just pay somebody to learn it then rather just figuring it out myself. And I think that that's like why a mentors or having people to look up to is always important because you can take the shortcut and learn it and get all the benefit from it without putting in necessarily the time to go and figure out the nitty-gritties of things. Like all these are just shortcuts of like how you can actually grow and scale your business.
Awesome. Yeah, I like how you learn from the businesses. You get to go behind the scenes and see their mistakes. So yeah, I can imagine that being like a great like resource in a way, like you said, what not to do. And yeah, looking at that, what's one of the most valuable lessons you've learned just while building your business?
Was my one just take action fast. I would say take action fast. I mean, there's a few actually. Like a lot of business are stuck in the mindset of figuring out what's going to work. And I think that that's a very false, I mean, that's a false sense of security, right? We want secure stuff, but the thing is, you just got to fail faster. Like, just do it, fail faster, figure it out, pay people to figure it out. Like, sometimes it's just that you can take your time to figure it out, or you can pay somebody to learn really quickly and understand what that's going to be like. And to me, that's probably one of the biggest thing that I see a lot of people not doing because people are it's kind of funny, right? Like we build business to we create a business to create financial freedom, to create financial freedom of time, freedom of energy. We have a greater purpose to serve. But then we get bogged down by the little things in terms of like, oh, I need to invest in this because I want to grow my business. But then it takes 10,000, I mean, it takes more than 10,000 hours to actually go think about whether this is the right step to move forward with. And it's so true for so many businesses out there, for so many business owners out there where they just cannot they just cannot part with their money to make a mistake. And I feel like that goes against the whole purpose of like why we have a business in the first place to create a bigger vision for somebody else. Because ultimately, through creating a business, you need to learn and you need to learn to know that things are not going to work right. And which is why failing fast is something that I try to do, like do something different every single day that I know that is going to be very effective, like to push my business in the right direction. Because I'm only going to get, it's going to be binary. I'm either going to, it's going to work out or it's not going to work out. If it's not going to work out, great, back to the drawing board. How can I change it? What should I be working on? Okay, understand it, implement it, right? So it has to be a very fast, feedback loop that you have to go through and just take action fast. So that's one very important thing. And the thing is just to know that like there's no results is good and bad. It's not the ultimatum. I feel that a lot of people think like and I think we're just conditioned in a way from schooling that like we are going to fail in something and it's going to be bad, right? But that's not necessarily failing is bad because bad result is just an indicator in terms of like things that needs to be changed. And good result is just an indicator of you should be doing more of that. So there isn't really more from a perspective of like good and bad. Like bad result shouldn't be called bad result. It's just called like yeah, this is just a negative. Like it's just a wrong outcome. It's just a things that needs to be improved, right? So that's kind of the mindset that I'm trying to take more often than not now because I mean people always ask me will this work. I mean I won't know whether this is work until you try it. I'm not if I know that like for example a Facebook ad campaign, if I launch it, if I know it's going to work, I'm going to be a billionaire by like since last year, but I'm not because the fact is if it doesn't go wrong, as long as you're tracking it right, we know what to fix. So kind of people focus too much on the outcome more than the steps that they actually need to take, and that cause them to be in a stage of like analysis paralysis. And to me, that's kind of like why I say like taking action, feel fast is the most important thing I've learned through my life in like through my time in business.
So that's a great lesson. I think that's super valuable. Yeah, take action fast, and be detached from the outcome, basically, right? Like don't take it personally. It's just a result, and then it's a yeah, like you said, an indicator for you on what you need to change. What
Correct.
about
And so sorry. Then I mean like just for yourself, right? I mean like if I were to ask you, right? Like I mean like do you find yourself always stuck in like always stuck in a loop of like thinking too much of whether this is going to work?
yeah? Do I? Yeah, yeah. I'll question that for sure.
Yeah. So that's something that's so common
Yeah.
for every single one,
Yeah.
and to me, I see that that's a very big kryptonite for all business owner in general, I would say. So that's why just embracing the mindset of failing faster, I think that's kind of like why it's such an important lesson for anybody who wants to start a business or who are already in business, right? Like to really take that away, because if you're not willing to try and fail, then and you're just like at any point, if I see I'm thinking too much, I know that I'm over analyzing something. I should just go do it anyway, because ultimately there's just going to be an outcome whether I like it or not.
Okay, great. What about what's one of the biggest challenges that you've had while growing the business?
Growing business, I mean, the lack of knowing.
Huh?
So I guess that's something that most business, like falling back the question to failing faster, right? I guess that's one of the biggest challenge, right? Because you're stuck in a rabbit. I mean, you're stuck in a hamster wheel of just spinning your brains of like wanting to know everything. But I mean, the truth is you can't know everything and anything in business in itself. You just have to just continue doing it. And I think a big struggle becomes of like especially when I mean, like I run paid ads on my own, right? And when you see money leaving your bank account and see what that's going to be like, I mean, is it scary? Yeah, it's scary, but the thing is, like, you just have to detach your emotion for a while and just put on like, okay, what is logical? Because it's so easy to just, when you're spending like hundreds of dollars on, I mean, a day on paid ads, it's just like, man, like, money leave your bank account faster than you can actually earn some days, and just like it can just go really really quickly. And you just have to see it more from a perspective of like, hey, like yes, this is, if I have this all dialed in, if something fails, I kind to know how to correct it in itself. So it's just seeing as a like money as a leverage more than money as a, and this whole paid advertising as more from a thing that I can speed up my result with, rather than just saying that, hey, like, I'm going to waste the money, right? So I guess that's kind of like, mindset is always the biggest challenge as a business owner, to see it from a point of not having an emotion and just making logical decisions from it. So that's kind of what I would say has always been my challenge in the bigger scope of things.
Okay. And then what are your thoughts on personal branding? Is that something like you incorporate into your business? What does that look like?
I'm trying to incorporate. It's not like, I think it's very important, especially in today's world. And I can say that especially with, I mean, like, going back to like dentists, insurance, financial advisors, realtors, right? I mean, like, there's so many out there. So how are you going to differentiate yourself? People really got to like you to start working with you, and the easier you can create that likeness, I think that's going to change a bigger perspective of things. But I think a lot of it is not. I mean, like, people should. I would say that, like, personal brand is more about like sharing your thought leadership with the world, and in terms of like how you can make people see it from your perspective of things more than anything else. So that's kind of like what I view personal brand as, and especially with in today's day and age where everybody, like, you see more advertising, more stuff in every single marketing avenue in itself, right? Like, personal branding is the one thing that isn't going to change because you are you. And to me, that's why, like, I think it's always worth investing and like creating the thought leadership perspective for other people. And yeah, it's something that I think, like, in anything in life, right? Like in anything in life, like, that is kind of like now, like, you just want to be known to more people so that you have more instant credibility more than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. People buy it from you if they know you, they trust you. So yeah, that's definitely important.
Yeah.
What's the biggest challenge that you're working on now? That's coming up.
My biggest challenge is actually consolidating my business model in itself. I think that's something that I've been thinking of working on, because when I'm just trying to talk to people more about like this whole customer journey, ideal customer thing, perfect growth system. It's just how to put it into the market and actually get more people to resonate with it. I think that's kind of my biggest challenge, because a lot of people, like going back to business in itself, people only think of leads and customers, which are great, right? But I mean, if you see, I mean, and you see many ads out there, like, I can help you grow your business in 30 days, or you don't pay any money, don't pay me, right? Like, kind of like those kind of promises are out there now. But the thing is, when you start doing this form of advertising or marketing in itself, I feel that it just contort the whole, or distort the whole idea of what a business really is all about, or how you can actually get a customer, because people make all these big claims, big promises, but it just sell, like, it's just like selling instant gratification. Like, if I pay you money, I'm gonna get it. But the thing is, the truth is, when we start talking about the like growing a business in the right way is not going to be instant gratification. There's so many moving parts. There's so many little things that you need to think about, and kind of that's why I'm kind of having a struggle or challenge in optimizing what I'm putting out to the market, because it feels that whenever I get on a call with people, people says like, can you get me leads? Yeah, I can get you leads, but what they really mean is they want clients, right? And they don't have that perspective shift yet in terms of like a lead to a client takes time, takes energy, takes effort, not just from my part, from everybody in the business as well. But if you don't acknowledge that, it's just, I can tell you, I've gotten so many business owners coming on, working with me, and the only thing is they are expecting results because they don't think they need to do everything on their end. It's all on the marketing agencies or marketing consultant, and then to me that becomes really, really stressful, which is why now navigating that is kind of a big challenge in terms of like, how can I really be getting the right client, the client with the right kind of mindset on board, or what do I actually need to do in my own sales process to make them understand that unless they have this mindset, I'm not really going to be working with them.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I see. That's interesting. And that kind of reminds me, like, so in my industry in construction, people watch HGTV and then they call us and say, hey, can you finish my basement in a weekend? Can you put an addition on the house in a couple days? And people think they get that impression of that instant gratification. In this case, it's entertainment where they have a crew of 100 people working all night to get these projects done. But yeah, it's sort of similar.
Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
crazy, right? Like everybody's selling instant gratification now, and then people just expect they want to pay the lowest amount of money to do the fastest job with the
Mhm.
best quality, and to me, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, yeah. So there's mismatch expectations between reality and then yeah, and then it's our job really as business owners to set that expectation and dial people into no, this is reality, this is what things actually cost and how long they actually take. Yeah, so that's interesting.
Yep.
So you talked about mindset, and I like that you said, detach your emotions from the outcomes. So that leads me to, is like spirituality, religion, does that impact like your life and does it influence into your business journey?
Yes, so I mean, I'm Catholic by birth, so religion and spirituality is something that I mean, like my family, my parents, we all hold dear, and like yeah, so and a big part of like I mean being so it translates to business, right? Like from a mindset perspective in terms of like what's ethical, what's not ethical, what things would I what things would I do, what things would I not do? Like people coming from like different ways, like there's customers that I work with that I will turn away just because my values are just not aligned, right? In
Mm-hmm.
terms of like what they're doing. So I had this client who does like OnlyFans, not client, like this lead that was referred to me that does like OnlyFans agency. I'm like, no, I'm not
Yeah,
gonna be doing this kind of things because it's just so
yeah,
misaligned with my values. And then there's like people who just like there was this a dating coach that was teaching people on how to get women on one night stand. I'm like, no, these are things that I'm not going to be helping like work on. So it's like so crazy. Like you get exposed into a very different perspective of different type of leads,
yeah.
customers that you can actually work with. So it's just like that definitely puts a very big filter in terms of like who I'm working with from the get go. And ultimately in terms of like I mean like being ethical as well, right? I mean like you can charge anything and everything from a business perspective because you control the price, like in terms of whatsoever. But ultimately, like and also like you can pay people anything and everything to get things done, right? So that kinds of like more from a personal morality standpoint that like hey, like, I need to be fair on both sides, like charging people fair and like paying people fair. It's not like just paying somebody under paid labor to extract the most job and be unreasonable or deep, but really giving people the value that they deserve and how do I share the profits with people and the less fortunate. So kind of like that that puts into my mindset in terms of how I'm working with people,
Mm-hmm.
and definitely religion and spirituality plays a big part into it.
Awesome. That's yeah. I like that answer. I like asking this question, but that's the first time somebody said like yeah, it affects like with an example like that, like who you can work with. But yeah, absolutely. That's definitely like yeah. You gotta keep in line with your values. So I like that. What about if you were to write a book? What would it be called, or what would it be about?
I have never thought about that. I mean, I want to write a book, but I have never talked about that. I mean there's going to be few things in life. I feel like what one if it's on business, it would really just be the predictable growth and predictable growth in business, right? How to scale a business predictably to a million and above. So like kind of like that's kind of like a way a book that I want to write more from a perspective of like telling people that like you're focusing on the wrong thing. Like you can hear all this marketing message out there that yeah, you can implement the latest strategy and you're going to get this blah blah blah, and then ultimately I think that those are things that would be very, like it will shift the perspective of people not just focusing on the like shiny bright shiny strategy out there or the latest thing like AI or whatsoever, but rather what's the fundamental of business that you should really be thinking about, right? So that's kind of one book that I would want to be writing based on like the people that I'm serving, so they understand in terms of like from a framework perspective how what should they be really focusing about. Then another book that I mean, I'm very, I would say that I would say I'm kind of introspective. I'm a very deep thinker, so I'm just like wanting to write things like, I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure you would know James Clear, Atomic Habit, right? The book Atomic Habit. So like he has a newsletter that he is very introspective where he questions people's thinking, and I think that's something that I want to write in terms of questioning people thinking in terms of like how, like going deeper into thought in terms of like why are we doing what we are doing in the first place. So it's like more of like the meaning of life type book where it just shows in terms of your alignment as a person, because I feel that like in today's days and age, right, one of the biggest issues in terms of like why there's so many problems in society, and I feel that there's a lack of people being aligned to whatever they want to do. For example, right, I'm a parent to my kids. I'm always learning to be better in every day of kids, and something that people don't realize is having more kids doesn't mean being a better parent, or spending time with your kids doesn't mean being a better parent. Like you have to spend your time with your kids intentionally to be a good parent to begin with, and like you have to be very intentional in terms of like what you're trying to do, how you're trying to achieve things, and that's not just being a parent, that's being a human, that's doing a business, that's like that compounds everything in life, right? And I feel that whole alignment, and this is a conversation me and my wife have really regularly in terms of how we align in terms of like business, in terms of like family, in terms of like kids, like life in general, is that there needs to be a very big alignment in the bigger scope of things before you can get anything achieved. Or else a lot of people are just on this earth now, just walking, just clock in, clock out, go to work, come back, turn on Netflix, watch Netflix, go back to bed, cycle on repeat. Or kids crying, put an iPad in front of them. So there isn't really an alignment in terms of what they say and what they're doing. And to me, that is a very, I feel that there's a very big opportunity there in terms of like getting a message out of like creating alignment. What does creating alignment in life is, and like how can you really be intentional in living your best life ever?
Amazing. Yeah, I would read either of those books. So I think it's a great idea. What about, do you have, going back to processes and like process improvement, do you have any like resources that people can access if they want to, get started and looking at that?
Yeah, so I have a free course for them. So if you go to www.perfectgrowthsystem.com/amplify, like it's a free course in terms of showing people in terms of how they should be designing their process, mapping out their sales journey, what does that look like, and like the software systems that I actually use. So that can actually be very helpful for people from the get-go. So I created this course because I know a lot of people, I mean, like a lot of people don't know where to get started, and I think that that's kind of why I created this in the first place. And it's just for people to have a very introspective way of getting started on business more than just throwing things at the fan and hoping things sticks to the fan. Yeah.
Awesome, that's great. And we'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. Okay, and now I have some rapid fire questions for you. So shorter answers, but yeah, what's the top book recommendation for entrepreneurs?
Top book, Atomic Habit. Oh, The Road Less Stupid. The Road Less Stupid by Keith Cunningham. One of the best thinking book ever that you should ever read, and Dan Mattel's Buy Back Your Time. I think those three books are on the top of my list.
Amazing. Yeah, The Road Less Stupid. I want to read that. That
Oh,
looks
it's so good. Like man, like you will have a different perspective of how you think after you read that book.
amazing. Okay, if you could have dinner with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
They're alive. Alive is Elon Musk. I think man, he's a inventor, creator. It's just like picking his brain is so crazy. I think he's just a wonder in terms of creation, and like the ability to take risks at that level is just phenomenal. So that's somebody that I would definitely want to have dinner with. Someone who I'm not sure many people know, Lee Kuan Yew. So he's a founding father of Singapore. How he built Singapore from a third world to a first world nation in less than 30 years. So being able to understand that, being able to have, I mean he's dead, but ultimately the thing is like being able to have dinner, and like I mean reading his memoirs, man, like he's very inspirational, and knowing how he actually built a country is definitely fascinating to me.
Yeah, he's very. I have his book. I think a quarter of the way through, from
Oh,
third world to first. Yeah,
yes,
no,
I have that book. It's so amazing, it's so crazy. Like
yeah,
that's why like it's a very inspirational figure.
Absolutely. If you could wave a wand and be free of any habit, what would it be?
Be free of very heavy habits, second guessing myself, man. Like that
Uh-huh.
is like pretty much I think the one thing that's stopping progress in any way. Like just because I guess back to where I said about like failing, right? Like hey, like if I just do it and just don't ask questions in a specific way, I mean like and just fail fast in business, I think that would be something that would be very helpful.
Absolutely, yeah. And I've heard other people say that on the podcast as well. So I think that's common to entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
What's your favorite or most used app on your phone?
What's my most used app on my phone? Very good question. WhatsApp. I message lots of people on WhatsApp or Discord. Like so, those are my two messaging app that I use. I manage my team on that and I manage my clients on that. So that's kind of why this is the most
Yeah.
used app on my phone. And like it just makes communication easy. And the only reason why I'm very big on communication and I over communicate sometimes, but I think that that's very effective and doesn't create miscommunication in any way or form.
Uh-huh. Okay, great. And how do you unwind after a long day?
I climb, I run, so I'm a rock climber. I've been climbing for the past 17 years of my life, and then I run marathons as well. I'm planning to do a triathlon, so like lots of fitness stuff in the bigger scope of thing, or else I'll go crazy.
Awesome. Where's your triathlon gonna be?
I have not signed up for one, but yeah, I'm in the midst of. I just finished a marathon this year. I'm just coming off an injury, which is why I have not started looking into it, but it's in
Mhm.
the plans for next year.
Okay, nice. I'm planning one for next year too, so we should coordinate. We can do the same one.
Nice.
We're
Yes, you
both in
can do that.
Alberta here. Yeah, awesome. Okay, and then where can people find you and connect with you?
Instagram, you can find me on Instagram, Moses Thien, just my name. And then, yeah, just go to perfectgrowthsystem.com. That's kind of like the brand that I'm trying to build as of now from a business standpoint. So that's kind of the two places that people can actually find me.
Okay, awesome. That's great. Any other thoughts you wanna leave our audience with?
The, I think one thing that I would encourage everybody to think about and ponder is just how are you aligned in life and business, and everything is intertwined. And to me, it's just like what like if you were to look at your life 5 years from now, how do you have to be aligned today to actually reach that goal? So that's kind of what I want to leave everybody with, because I think that's something that people don't think about enough to understand how they are creating alignment in their life today to create a better version of themselves.
Amazing. That's great. Well, Moses, thanks so much for coming on. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.